video because uh,
Let me hold on a minute. Let's go to participants. Oh, are you on as, you're on as panelist, right?
I think he might have dropped out because it said two.
Oh, it's still there. Okay. Make him go.
Said you have to bring your own little personal thing on it. I know.
Okay, there we go. There we go, Mayor.
hello.
Hello.
You have the SP in Trish's office.
It's in the closet on the extreme left of that hanging box. Does that make sense?
If you want to rope,
Yes.
there's two here. This little thermostat says temporary hold.
I know. I couldn't get it show. I did, at one point I had it a permanent hold, and then it changed.
Now it says off. What's that mean?
It means it's off.
Off, off.
Off, yeah.
Which one?
We don't run that kind of.
I pushed her heavy duty stapler a hole punch out of the little slot. High security.
We on a program.
When he comes, now, are you still charging? Yes, good. Because I can't get that plug to work for me. So I have to. But
Yeah, I don't think this is on.
No,
On the program to work at certain hours. And I don't have a book, so I don't want to. I don't want to turn the heat on.
Let's not make this worse.
that might be bad. Yeah, I had it set at 64. And it's on.
But it says 74.
Yeah, we're not, the hallway at City Hall was 82 degrees. I just like.
I know, it's not like you can just put in a temperature and that's what it goes to.
I had, now it turned on to permanent hold.
I don't think
Hold
that's
on.
good.
But I don't feel like anything's working.
No.
Oh no, is it empty? Is there another one over there?
Lieutenant Brown, no,
I got one there.
Yeah. he looks like the kind of guy that knows that stuff.
He did.
Hey. Hello.
Hi.
That's up, right?
Yes, hello there.
Oh,
Oh, good.
what have you got, L95 now?
I'm glad
Oh.
I'm glad I got socialized. Very much.
Oh, well, hey.
Yeah, I think that's the best we're gonna do is caught up and see. Yeah.
Oh, yours is nice.
Well, he said that when it gets over 80 degrees, it doesn't work well down.
It
The air
doesn't?
conditioning.
Oh, this air, it's
When
not
it
bad.
gets over 80, what? Yeah, I
Degrees
can't,
outside.
oh, it doesn't work. when
It's not
over
too
80
bad
degrees
here.
outside.
It drops again to about, what's this here? 74 here now?
Isn't that counterintuitive to how that device should work?
But if you
So
come
the
out-
hotter it gets, the less it cools.
Yeah, that's, we paid
We
someone
paid extra
to
for
do,
that?
to give us that extra stuff.
Is that a feature? Is it like, you know, like in IT, we used to call that a feature.
Oh, thank you, right, that's a good
There's no point in over here, I gotta just-
And then motor vehicles, when it hit 84, we used to call that time to go home.
Yeah.
Squeeze through, there you go.
These are great. These little,
What are these for?
Okay,
is this
so,
part of our grant?
Yes, I
We
said.
got from Sustainable?
no, when we were cleaning up City Hall, we found
Yes.
And so I thought they were for Lester to put like on our, receptacles, but he said, no, they're actually for, to give to the public.
How are you?
I'm good.
I stopped by.
I'm good, how are you doing?
Tuesday.
I didn't respond to
Tuesdays. Yep.
Just
Tuesdays
gonna
at
get
4:30.
the
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of, I mean, it's.
Yeah, no, that's
So
So we're just all being cautious because we were with them.
Yeah, yeah, good day.
What were you with them yesterday?
But I was maybe the star. I wasn't like, as close as I was. But still.
We're gonna give them some vitamin C.
Is he on?
Yeah,
Let me see that man.
we're gonna drop off oranges.
Hey, you gotta wear a mask.
Last time. They had questions. and then we kind of-
That's okay.
Are you on mute?
You know, they're like.
Mary, are you on mute? You?
Not.
No?
All right.
You have to turn the volume on.
Yeah, can you hear us okay?
Oh, I can hear you perfectly.
Oh, okay.
You're the only one at the meeting that's not wearing a mask.
Good.
I'll forgive you.
We're having a party on Saturday, and I'm trying to figure out how many, like, where I can let people park.
Oh, good. Wherever.
Well, I don't want to get in your way, so that's why it's something.
Just one way drive, I'm good. It's all good.
Hi, Julius.
Oh,
Hello,
you're running the.
how are you?
She is.
Where's she from?
That's terrific.
Cindy, Ward,
Yeah.
Ward has his hands raised, raised.
Oh, he didn't,
He
okay.
said he's only, unless you elevate him, he's only in, living.
Me too. We were at the Wednesday, yeah.
No, it's not done yet.
All right, was at least.
And no, we were just here before they're today.
Should we look promoted?
Well, in the best of worlds. it's fine.
Maybe we. started promoting that, right?
I'm gonna make it out of going to see my cousin on Saturday.
Cindy, will you let me know when, Councilman Sanders is elevated?
Sorry, say it again?
Will you let me know when Councilman Sanders is, elevated and can speak?
Yes. Oh, you know why, Mayor? I made you the host. So I think you have to elevate him.
Oh, all right, hang on a second.
He's not very loud.
Can you raise the volume on that?
Yeah, it's just-
A little bit.
these aren't.
All right, Ward, can you say something, please?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mayor, can you hear us okay?
Yep, I can hear you. I can hear you guys. I can't hear the mayor terrifically well, but
Okay.
I use the public Zoom address. I didn't have another address, I don't think. So
Can you hear the mayor?
Can you hear me well, Ward?
Let me turn the volume up.
I mean, how about now? Can you hear me well?
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay. All right.
It's the people in the room that can't hear you very well.
Who, me?
Mayor, the
Mayor, the mayor.
Well,
Yeah,
Now, Ward, we got you loud and clear.
Okay.
If this
And we
becomes
turned our volume up.
Yeah, Cindy, if this becomes problematic, please let me know and we'll see about having Council President Taylor run the show.
Okay.
No.
I know. It's my job.
All right, good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting to order at 7 o'clock, and I would ask that Cindy read the statement of compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act into the record, please.
This meeting is being held in compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act, with the meeting notice provided to the Hunterdon County Democrat, the Trenton Times, various individuals on the listserv, department heads, the city engineer, and city attorney. This meeting will be recorded and streamed live using the Zoom meeting platform. The meeting agenda offers planned action items of the governing body to the extent known at the time of publication. Would you like roll call, Mayor?
Yes, please.
Councilwoman Lambert. Here. Councilman Sanders.
Here?
Councilman Stegman.
Here,
Council President Taylor. Here. Mayor Noack.
Here. All right, if everyone please rise and say the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance
against the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Remain standing, please, for a moment of silence.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I should just state at the beginning of this that though I tested negative on Saturday and Monday and came back to work on Tuesday, I unfortunately just tested positive for COVID about 45 minutes ago. So my apologies to everybody at City Hall. I was feeling generally pretty good today, but I don't know, something just made me suggest that I do it, and regrettably I have COVID again. So for anybody who's been in contact with me, please take note of that.
Can't hear a word.
Yeah, Mayor, can you hold on 1 second? I'm going to see what I can do with the owl.
I'm sorry.
He has COVID.
There is no, wait. Mayor, can you say something?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Is that better? All right, I'll speak as loudly as I can.
Yeah, that's a lot better.
Thank you, Cindy.
hey, Ward, don't be loud now. You're probably gonna blast the socks off the mouth.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Oh, there they go, there they go.
All right. Our first item on the agenda is the approval of the meeting minutes from June 2nd and June 16th. I would just make a note. This was the work session meeting minutes on June 2nd and the voting session minutes on June 16th. I would just make a note that I did amend the June 16th minutes. There was one error in them in the discussion of the anchor program, and it was noted that the average taxpayer would receive $150 tax benefit through the anchor program of the state. It's actually $1,500. So bearing that in mind, unless there are any other changes to the minutes, I'd like to hear a motion to adopt the minutes or accept the minutes.
Second,
Okay, Cindy, I think tonight we're going to do a roll call just because we're just going to do that if you don't mind. So can we do a roll call, please?
Sure. Councilwoman Lambert? Yes. Councilman Sanders?
Yes.
Councilman Stegman?
yes.
Council President Taylor?
Yes.
Mayor Noah.
Yes. Okay, we have no proclamations tonight. On our consent agenda, we have a number of resolutions. I do want to speak to a couple of them in particular, and then if there are any additional questions, we can pull them out. Just wanted to note that letter C, resolution number 119/2022 is a resolution to appoint Robert Brown to serve as the LGBTQ plus liaison to law enforcement, and Ronnie Todd Marino to serve as LGBTQ plus liaison to the city executive. This is just a way for us to get more points on our municipal, our MEI, which is a rating system that from the Human Rights Campaign. We're already at number 92, thanks to the previous administrations, both Mayor Fall and Mayor Delvecchio's very sound and progressive work in this area. So with the adoption of this resolution, our scorecard would go from a 92 to a 97. So that's one thing I'd like to note. And resolution number 125-2022, this was a resolution to authorize the purchase of a Ford Explorer. I would just like to note that Lieutenant Brown and I had several conversations about the potential of the police force breaking into hybrids, and Lieutenant Brown did some research about that. Unfortunately, there are no hybrids available this year, and probably not until late next year. So just a note about that. Two other things, resolution number 137-2022. This was a resolution to cancel property taxes for 260 North Main, also known as the Clausen property, or formerly the Clausen property. Just a note to explain that when the city purchased this property, a mistake was made and the city was not exempted from paying property taxes. This resolution will correct that error. The next one is resolution number 138-2022. This is a resolution to authorize the city and the clerk to sign an access agreement for the city-owned property adjacent to LPS. I just wanted to let everybody know this was an agreement that we've struck with the school district. They are interested in repaving the parking lot adjoining the playground. They are well aware of the requirements to keep that service permeable. The cost has been built into the referendum, and so the city would like to have them. The city will remain the owner of the parking lot. It's just to allow them to pave it. And the last resolution I just wanted to explain a little bit about was resolution number 144-2022. This is a resolution to amend the resolution number 108-2022, repairs to the city infrastructure to the sorry, my dog, hang on a second. Sorry about that. And this is to amend repairs to the city's infrastructure. Just to review these numbers, because I think it's important to note, we have new and supplemental work on this project. This is the culvert on Upper Arnett Avenue of $98,790. This includes additional culvert cleaning disposal, which was $48,000 and change, confined space labor, which was $19,000 and change, and the replacement of the culvert extension and head wall, and that is $30,000. We did have a reduction of work there, which was $45,000 for work that didn't need to happen. We had planned potentially in case there was further work that needed to be done, but that did not need to be done. So that results in a net change of $53,790, and that will explain kind of the difference here. Does the council have any other questions about anything on the consent agenda?
Mayor, I have one here, and it's resolution 143, and it would get rid of a flexible spending account that we have at the Princeton Bank. I recognize that it sounds like nobody's participating in the FSA. I think by law we're required to have it. Chapter 78 from 2011, which created the pension and health benefit reforms, required us to establish it. And back then we established it. I'm not so sure we can get rid of it, even if no one's using it. So it could, if folks want to get rid of it tonight, but we may have to reestablish it. I don't know if we want to pull that out, or whether you want to proceed and then reestablish it if we have to. But I just became aware of this, and I'm a little bit concerned about canceling that.
Okay, thank you for that, Councilman Sanders. So two questions. One for Cindy. Cindy, there's the balance is like $1 and some change, right? Is it a very low
And
balance?
this one is a penny. This one has a penny.
Okay, so my second question would be to Mr. Opel. Is it you're under? Do you have any knowledge about the? I'm sorry, I'm just not feeling that well. The necessity to keep this bank account. Is it something that we should consider keeping?
Not off the top of my head, I'm sorry. I can look into it if we want to table this tonight, and I can have an answer for the next time there's a meeting.
Okay, well then let's table it. If we can pull the resolution number 144-2022 out of the consent agenda, do we need to do a motion on that?
143.
I'm sorry,
Resolution
143.
number-
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
you're correct, Councilwoman. Do we need to do a motion on that, Cindy, to pull it out?
No, we'll just pull it out and then the motion will be to approve the resolutions except.
Okay,
So it would be, the motion would be to approve the resolutions listed on the consent agenda, except resolution number 143, which will be tabled to a later date.
I have a question, Mayor.
yes.
Can we just, if the UDAG repayment account, can we close that one and leave the medical account open at this point? Or do you want to table the whole thing?
Either way, the UDAG has $1.11 in it.
Yeah. Well, it's up, whatever you want to do is fine. We're going to readdress it anyway.
Yeah. I would
Okay.
just pull the whole thing
All right.
and we'll readdress it in August.
Good key.
Okay, are there any other questions about any of the other resolutions? Hearing none, may I get a motion to accept the consent agenda with the exception of resolution number 143-2022, which will be tabled until a future meeting?
So move.
Second?
Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Lambert,
Yes.
Councilman Sanders,
Yes.
Councilman Stegman.
Yes.
Council President Taylor,
Yes.
Mayor Noah.
Yes. Thank you. Next is the bills list. I'd like to have a motion to approve the bills list, please.
So moved. Second?
Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Lambert,
Yes.
Councilman Sanders,
Yes.
Councilman Stegman.
Yes.
Council President Taylor,
Yes.
Mayor Noah.
Yes. Thank you. Next is an ordinance in first reading introduction. The first one is ordinance number 20-2022. This is an ordinance to amend ordinance number 19-21, 2021, the salary range for the officials and employees of the city of Lambertville, county of Hunterdon, state of New Jersey. This is basically just an ordinance that amends the salary ranges for all the staff. Are there any questions about this? All right, if not, may I have a motion to introduce ordinance number 2020-2022 on first reading with a public hearing scheduled for August 18th, 2022.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Lambert,
Yes.
Councilman Sanders,
Yes.
Councilman Stegman.
Yes.
Council President Taylor,
Yes.
Mayor Noah.
Yes. Our next item under consideration is ordinance number 21-2022. This is an ordinance to amend the Lambertville City Code 2014, Chapter 17, Cable Television, to expand the functions and change the name to read Broadband, Cable, and Telephone Advisory Committee. This would amend the language in the Lambertville City Code and broadens the functions of the board and changes the title to Broadband, Cable, and Telephone Advisory Committee. This was something that came at the behest of the committee itself, on which Councilman Sanders serves. Are there any questions, or Ward, did you want to say? I mean, Councilman Sanders, did you have anything to add to this?
No, I think you've covered it. It was just a recognition that the world has changed since we first enacted this, and the scope of our work, I think would be benefited if we were to enhance it.
Thank you. Are there any comments or questions from the council on this?
Yeah, is it safe to assume that telephone includes cellular?
Yes.
Good, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please, to introduce on first reading ordinance number 21-2022 with a public hearing scheduled for August 18th, 2022?
Hello.
Second,
Okay, roll call, please, Cindy.
Councilwoman Lambert,
Yes.
Councilman Sanders,
Yes.
Councilman Stegman.
Yes.
Council President Taylor,
Yes.
Mayor No.
Yes. Thank you.
Mayor, if I may, before we move on, as to ordinance 2022, I just want to confirm that the public hearing date is August 18th.
What did I say something different?
No, the language of the ordinance says September. I just wanted to make sure that the record is clear that public, because we're reading it first tonight, public, we're noticing the public hearing is August rather than September. Oh, I thought
Thank you. That's what I was trying to say.
Thanks.
Is that the one we just?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Bill.
No, so the one we passed just before the.
Oh, the one before that.
All right. Next is ordinance number 22-2022. This is an ordinance to amend the Lambertville City Code 2014, Chapter 8, Municipal Parking Areas and Metered Parking Area, Metered Parking, Article 2, parking meters to increase the hourly rate from $1.25 per hour to $1.50 per hour. This is something that we talked obviously about at a previous meeting, and I've decided that we should potentially reconsider this with a meter fee increase of 25 cents an hour. This ordinance also includes the acceptance of pay by phone applications. Excuse me. Are there any questions or comments from the council on this?
Mayor, we had a discussion about changing the hours of the meters. Would that be done separately?
It will be, yeah. I haven't had a chance to speak with anybody else about that yet, Councilwoman. I wasn't quite prepared to bring it to this meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? All right. If not, may I have a motion to introduce on first reading ordinance number 22-2022 with a public hearing scheduled for August 18th, 2022.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. May I have a roll call, please, Cindy?
Councilwoman Lambert,
Yes.
Councilman Sanders,
Yes.
Councilman Stegman.
Yes.
Council President Taylor,
Yes.
Mayor No.
Yes. Thank you.
Mayor No, yes.
I'm sorry, Cindy?
Nope, that was it.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Next are some ordinances that are currently in draft form. These are, we've recently started kind of putting these on the agenda just to get both the council thinking about things and letting the public know that we are considering particular ordinances before they even come on for first reading. So it's just gives us a little bit more gives us a little extra time to have conversations if need be, and make sure the public knows that that we're considering these things. So one of the ordinances that we're considering is an ordinance to amend the Lambertville City Code 2014, Chapter BH2, which is the Public Health Nuisance Code, Section BH-5, to include livestock. So recently we've had some issues with chickens in town, and chickens are, I love chickens. A lot of people like chickens, but maybe not everybody wants other people's chickens in their yards. The police and I have had to go to one residence in town on several different occasions because of wayward chickens and neighbors who have issue with that. So we wanted to take a look at this. I know that there's a lot of chickens in town, but this is just something that we wanted to consider. And there's a couple of different ways to look at this. We could we could ban all livestock anywhere within the city unless somebody has a minimum lot of 5 acres. There's a number of different things we could do. So the language, Cindy, is the language of in the agenda? I have my agenda, but I don't have.
It is for the governing body. I did bring a couple extra of the proposed language.
Okay.
So we do have that.
Okay. So
That's the two versions in it?
Yeah, there's 2 versions in both because I didn't know what way the governing body would want to go. We did poll all of the clerks in Hunterdon County, and that's how we got some of this language. Some of them don't allow chickens at all. One was you have to have a minimum requirement of 3 acres. So there was like 3 to 5 acres was what most of them said. Some of them have nothing. We did have, and the only thing we had was that you can't have chickens in your house. That's really the only thing our Board of Health said. But the one that I liked, that I thought was a pretty good compromise, where it says no swine, goats, cattle, pigeons, chickens, ducks, geese, or other fowls shall be kept or maintained in the city of Lambertville in any cellar or dwelling house. Such animals or fowls shall be kept confined in a suitable coop with an enclosed runway. Such coop, runway, or enclosure shall be kept in a clean and sanitary condition and be kept in a location which will prevent it from becoming a nuisance or annoyance or interfering with general well-being of other residents of the municipality. And then it also has a section for running at large. No person owning, keeping, or harboring livestock shall permit any one or more of the animals to run at large in public streets or any other public places within the city. And then there's a property damage, which would be prohibited. No person owning, keeping, or harboring livestock shall permit any animals to cause injury or damage to any lawn, shrubbery, flowers, grounds, or other property. So, I mean, that's a compromise. You either can limit the number of, the chickens by the number of acreage, or you can like do a compromise and require people to pen them. And we have had, especially recently, we've had complaints about rats because they do draw rats. We've had complaints that they get in people's gardens and dig them up, and they do. So
The rats or the chickens?
the chickens, both actually, yes. So, as much as I think we all love that, and we're all into farming and, composting and things like that, the mayor's right, you gotta be a good neighbor.
So, I'm sorry.
Go
Someone else
ahead,
have-
Yes,
Is it my-
Ben.
Oh, it's my turn. I think it would be, given the size of Lambertville, it would be sort of basically the equivalent to banning livestock if we said something like 3 to 5 acres or even 1 acre.
Yeah.
So I don't think that makes any sense. The only other thing I'd add is maybe an exclusion for roosters, like roosters not being allowed, because they have a tendency to wake up very early, and that might be a
Well, you keep
problem.
them at Public Works, they're up like a 5.
Well, we can give all the roosters in town to Lester up in West Faneuil.
Yeah, the acreage limitation is, well, as Councilwoman said, Lambert said, will pretty much ban any of that. But I have a question, when you mean at large,
Mhm.
does that mean, and I'm gonna use this as a really weird example, so I don't mean to be facetious, but can you walk your animal on a leash outside of the pen?
I would think yes, because we have the same type of language in the dog ordinance
Mhm.
that prohibits it from running at large.
Oh, interesting, okay.
You see that a lot, yeah.
And you would have to clean up after it, the same as you would for a dog.
I don't know how you put a leash on a chicken.
Yeah, I'd like to see that.
Well, you don't walk, well, if you're gonna take your poultry around, you're not gonna walk it past the restaurant. We'd be fine with that.
Hey, Mayor, I wonder, I think that there's probably more interest in this than folks may realize. And I'd hate for us to charge off on and do something that, is doesn't make sense and we need to start over again. I just wonder if there's other than just sort of the public hearing process, whether there's some way to sort of solicit interest or comments around this. I've seen chickens sort of roaming, on North Union Street, and I can understand why someone would cry foul, if you will, if they were in their yard. But I just wonder if there's an opportunity for some comment to solicit comments during this. I think I got 1 or 2 emails in this already. I got a call the other day about it. So I just wonder if there's a way to try to solicit some input before we charge off on this.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea, Councilman Sanders. It's part of the reason why why I decided to put this in as a potential ordinance. There are a lot of chickens in my neighborhood, and as I've said, I'm personally fond of chickens, and I can understand kind of both sides of the issue. I'd be happy to solicit feedback from the community. I could put something in Lambertville Matters. Obviously, we're having this discussion tonight, but I'm happy to put something in Lambertville Matters next week and ask people to just kind of weigh in either with me or with the council. I did get 1 email today about this, so happy to do that. I think that's a good point.
Okay, thank you, Mayor.
Sure.
If I could just chime in, I think in the neighborhoods we all live in, we're the different neighborhoods throughout the city, we kind of know who has, let's just use the chickens that are being cared for in a very positive way. I don't know if limiting it to 3 is an arbitrary number, but I think if we could, as Councilman Sanders said, if we can, and also, as you had said in Lambertville Matters, just to get a handle on the number of whatever it is that we're limiting is in practice with what's actually happening for people who do have those type of animals.
All right, so if the council doesn't mind, I'll solicit some feedback from the community on this, and I'll report back next month. There's I don't think there's a particularly great hurry with this, but I think it's an interesting question, and I do think we should move forward in considering it. So let me do a little bit more research and get some feedback from the community, and I'll report back to the council either before the August meeting or at the August meeting. Okay. The next ordinance that we were considering was an ordinance to amend the Lambertville City Code 2014, additional provisions for film and media. This is currently in draft and needs some additional edits. I think it was Councilman Sanders. Was this something that you were looking at for us?
I think Councilman Stegman and I both had raised it in a previous meeting, if I remember correctly. And I know Hoboken and a number of other cities have launched off on rulemaking in this area.
Yeah, I remember we discussed that.
Okay, well, I'm going to leave that in your hands for the moment, and
Okay.
let me know if there's anything I can do to help move it along, or, I'm here if you need some help, okay?
Okay, thank you.
The next potential ordinance would be an ordinance authorizing and encouraging the electric vehicle supply service and make-ready parking spaces. This is something that I should be working on, but I haven't been. So I will do my best to move this forward in the next month or two. Something that we do need to do, and I just have not. I've not moved it up the priority list, but I will, and we'll consider it in the next month or two. And the last one is an ordinance to revise the vacant property ordinance. Cindy, can you just talk a little bit about this, because I'm forgetting what we're.
Sure. So last year, 2021, I believe, we adopted an abandoned house ordinance. We previously, I want to say it was 2016, we adopted a vacant property ordinance but the laws have changed governing vacant property. And so what we need to do is review our vacant property and bring it up to code, to meet the standards of the statute. And at the same time, I thought, the reason I put abandoned properties on that is I thought maybe we should take a look at both and see, maybe they should be working together in some way.
Like the vacant property registration ordinance is a different mechanism than the abandoned property list. So I don't know that they would end up in the same ordinance, but I do know that the vacant property registration regs have changed.
Yeah, so we at the very least have to update that,
Yeah.
and it's probably statutes in that. I believe there's one or two elements of what we have that we have to update. I haven't invested a lot of time, I just got the notice on it and, you know, put it on the list to do.
Okay, thank you. If there are no other questions or comments on those proposed or considered ordinances, we'll move on. Tonight we will be looking at second reading and public hearing for I think 3 ordinances. The first of which is ordinance number 17-2022. This is an ordinance amending certain sections as specified below of the City of Lambertville Land Development Review Ordinance, Article 12, Affordable Housing, Section LDR-1200, Affordable Housing Ordinance, to address the requirements of the Fair Housing Act and the Uniform Housing Affordability Controls, UHAC, regarding compliance with the city's affordable housing obligations. So we obviously have had our first reading on this. This was basically just to clarify or redefine the overlay zone in the city to include the sections of 165 on the east side and North Franklin Street as outlined in the ordinance. So are there any questions or comments from the council at this point? Okay, hearing none, I would like to open this up to public comment at this time. So if there are members of the public, we'll do in the room first. Please state your name, come up to the microphone, state your name and address, and make your comment or question. You have about 3 minutes to speak, and we'll take public comment now, please. Is there anyone in the room, Cindy?
No, no one's there, Mayor.
Okay, I do not see any hands raised online, or any of the participants online wish to speak to this. All right. I don't see any raised hands, and so I'd like a motion to close the public comment period for this ordinance.
So move.
Second?
Okay, may I have a roll call, please?
Councilwoman Lambert,
Yes.
Councilman Sanders,
Yes.
Councilman Stegman,
Yes.
Council President Taylor,
Yes.
Mayor Noah.
Yes. All right. Unless there are any other council comments or questions, I'd like to ask for a motion to adopt ordinance number sorry, I lost my way here. 17-22.
So moved. Second?
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Lambert,
Yes.
Councilman Sanders,
Yes.
Councilman Stegman,
Yes.
Council President Taylor,
Yes.
Mayor Noah.
Yes. Thank you. Ordinance number 18-2022. This is an ordinance amending certain sections as specified below of the City of Lambertville zoning ordinance to encourage economic development and investment in the central business district zone. So this was just a simple change of use for change in use applications for residential, non-residential, or a combination of the two that result in a net increase of 15 or more parking spaces shall be required to provide off-street parking for those spaces in excess of the net increase of the 15 spaces that would be generated by the change of use. Are there questions or comments from the council on this?
No.
I have a quick question. The net increase of 15 or more, I thought when we first introduced this, it was up to 15, not 15 or more. But do you recall something like that?
I think this is what that's how I recall it.
Okay, so that's, because we did it some time ago. so I
Yeah,
just wanted to
like
make
in
sure.
December, we were talking about. it.
Yeah. So it's just one space, more, it sounds, it's familiar, there's always spoken about. I just wanted to make sure. Okay,
Yeah.
Great, thank you.
All right, any other comments from the council? If not, I'd like to open this up to the public for comment. Are there any members of the public in the room who wish to speak to this ordinance?
Mayor, no one's at the dais.
All right, thank you. I see one participant online, Judy Gleason. Do I have to unmute her? Is that how this works?
Yes, Mayor, I think you do.
All right, hang in there, Judy. I got to figure this out.
Just put your cursor over her name.
I got it. Okay. Judy, please state your name and your address and proceed with your comment or question.
Judy Gleason, 86 North Union Street. I actually am not sure what we're talking about here because I'm having a hard time hearing you, Mr. Mayor. So I'm not sure if this is an ordinance that has to do with parking changes in what's required for new construction or parking. And so I'm asking to just have a clarity with a voice that I can hear better, honestly, than I can hear yours, Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Judy. Cindy, can you respond, please?
Yes, I mean, this was an ordinance that actually Councilman Stegman had worked on with the city planner. They invested a lot of time in 2021 on this, and maybe he would be best to speak to it.
Well, originally, this was just for the CBD, and it was just for commercial properties. And working with Emily Goldman, there had been an application that came in front of one of the boards to change or and modify something on the Coriel Street, which is what I think that's why this came up about. And if Emily were here, she could speak a little bit more in detail about it. But originally it came up to make it less cumbersome for an applicant who had been in the CBD to expand their business. And one of the things we talked about was somebody wanted to increase the size of a restaurant that, they could up to a certain point do that without having to use ghost parking spots. So this was a suggestion to expand it to non-commercial properties as well.
Thank you. I'm only going to, without having the details of this precise proposal in front of me, I can only say there is great concern about the way in which we're dealing with parking in town from the perspective of repeated circumstances where variances are granted over and over in areas where it will affect residential parking. And by the time that anybody can do anything to raise concern, it's already past the point with the planning board that anything can happen. So we've had some sales of property in town recently that are properties that have been used for overflow parking in the past that will likely never be available for that again within the next 5 years when they become perhaps developed. So I'm just raising, I guess, the initial camel's nose under the tent type concern, because a look at parking for us is going to become critical. And I'm just hoping that we don't do the step by step by step by step being in a position where we have overlooked the 30,000 feet big picture. And I can't tell if that is this, but this gives me pause and concern, which is why I make this comment. Thank you.
Hey, Judy. Is there anyone else in Zoom land?
Mayor.
Yep, I don't see any other hands. All right, at this point, then I'd like a motion to close the public comment period on this ordinance.
So moved. Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Lambert,
Yes.
Councilman Sanders,
Yes.
Councilman Stegman,
Yes.
Council President Taylor,
Yes.
Mayor Noah.
Yes. All right. Next is ordinance number 19-2022. This is an
Mayor,
ordinance.
you have to do the, motion to adopt.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes,
Oh,
excuse
that's
me.
okay.
Thank you. May I have a motion from the council to adopt ordinance number 18-2022?
So moved. Second.
Roll call, please, Cindy.
Councilwoman Lambert,
Yes.
Councilman Sanders,
Yes.
Councilman Stegman,
Yes.
Council President Taylor,
Yes.
Mayor Noah.
Yes. Thank you for keeping me on track. Next is ordinance number 19-2022, an ordinance of the city of Lambertville and Hunterdon County, New Jersey, amending chapter 16 of the city code entitled Cannabis, and amending the land use regulations to permit the operation of Class 5 cannabis retailer license without consumption area and prohibit classes 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6 of cannabis licensed establishments within the city, and amending chapter 15 to establish a cannabis transfer tax, amending and restricting 2 of the 4 licenses to micro businesses. So we also obviously had this one last month, and it was based on feedback that we had from the public, pretty widespread feedback. We have 2 regular cannabis retailers, and it was felt as though the city, in keeping with our kind of cultural values and the size of the city, the 2 micro businesses would be better to require the second of the 4 businesses to be micro businesses. Are there any questions or comments from the council on this?
No.
All right. None? Okay.
There's no one at the dais for the public, Mayor.
Okay, is there anyone in the, no, I do see
No.
one hand raised. Mr. Lyde, if you would kindly state your name. Oh, let me let you talk, hang on.
Mayor, I think we took back control, so we'll be able to take that from here for you.
Okay, so Mr. Lyde, if you would state your name and address for the record and proceed to make your comment or ask your question.
Sure. Evan Lyde, 9 Arnett. I only speak up only to ask council to consider possibly amending the ordinance later down the road for Class C cannabis delivery. I think it's a smart way for the city to recoup some of the, the benefits that we would get if we did have a delivery service. And it really would not affect some of the concerns that the public has had about some of the other businesses, which, obviously are going to be legal, but this is a way to still get some of the revenue, yet not have, the business actually be open for customers in town.
Okay, thank you, Evan, I appreciate that. I don't see any other hands raised, so may I have a motion to close the public comment period on this ordinance, please?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please, Cindy.
Councilwoman Lambert,
Yes.
Councilman Sanders,
Yes.
Councilman Stegman,
Yes.
Council President Taylor,
Yes.
Mayor Noah.
Yes. All right, so unless there are any other comments or questions from the council on this, I'd like to have a motion to adopt on second reading ordinance number 19-2022.
So moved.
Is there a
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Lambert,
Yes.
Councilman Sanders,
Yes.
Councilman Stegman,
Yes.
Council President Taylor,
Yes.
Mayor Noah.
Yes. Thank you. All right, we'll move on to discussion items. I'll keep a couple of these short. The first thing I wanted to talk about was the City Hall porch grant. So back in 2017, the city submitted to the New Jersey Historic Trust a grant application a grant request in the amount of $88,518.67 to restore, not restore, but to replace the porch on City Hall, in keeping with the original porch design when it was a residence. So this is something that's come up, I think, a couple of times. I think most recently in 2018, if I'm remembering correctly, or 2019. The grant is still open. It expires on January 16, 2023. We can request an extension if we like. And the reason why I bring this up is because, I think that I'm not even sure who, I don't remember who wrote the grant, but somebody took a lot of time to write the grant. We got pretty far down the road with this project. Architectural drawings were made. There was an archaeological dig to find the original footings of the porch. A lot of time and effort went into this. Approvals were granted, and the project didn't move forward in the end. I think it's worth having a conversation about, and I'm interested to see if one of the council members would potentially take on this project as a potential project. I would say at this juncture, given the potential costs that's involved with putting the porch on and our required match, I would encourage this project to move forward pretty much only with some private donations and private funding. I don't necessarily think that the city should bond a large amount of money to complete this project, but I do think it's worth taking a look at, and I just wanted to get the council's thoughts on this and bring it out into to a conversation. Anyone?
Well, if you're looking for someone to, if the council decides to move forward with this, if you're looking for someone to manage it, I'd be happy to do it. Since I was involved with that project quite some time ago.
Did Councilman Stegman, did you want to speak to the project as you remember it? Do you want to take a couple minutes and?
Yeah, well, part of the reason that we proceeded to apply for the grant is, well, number one, for funding, obviously, and the thought process was, when the city has a historic building, currently owns a historic building, and there's funding available for a grant to restore the original porch on that building, I think that we would set an example for the rest of the folks that are moving in and have historic homes to keep it, to understand how important it is for the city to take a leading role in preserving and restoring, as we have in the past, City Hall. So it was, that was pretty much in a nutshell what the conversation was about getting the porch funded or partially funded, and then proceeding with ways to raise the additional monies, which at this point has been so many years, I really don't know what this would cost. So in addition to the grant, but I think that at the time we had some conversations with East Lumber to get involved, and a community spirit to do a fundraiser to help offset to the city by putting the porch back on. Just to take the lead in showing the importance of historic preservation is for the city, and the city actually has taken several steps to put that forward in the past couple of years, how important historic as an economic engine as well. And it's interesting, I was having a conversation with the mayor the other day about the number of weddings that he's been doing, and people, when given choices about where to have the ceremony, are suggesting that they'd like to have done at City Hall. So if the porch was on the building, it would, it would further focus the city's commitment to historic preservation. That's pretty much a a whole view of it.
Thank you, Councilman. So if there are any other questions or comments, let's have them now. Otherwise, I would propose, unless there are any objections, to let Councilman Stegman just kind of proceed doing some investigatory work on this and reporting back to the council. In the end, I'm not sure how feasible this is going to be, but I do think it's worth at least Councilman Stegman's interested in doing some exploratory work on it, on the possibility that it might move forward. I'm fine with that. So does anyone, I don't know, I don't think we need a motion here or anything, but does anybody have any concerns about this that they'd like to get out front of the conversation?
I don't have concerns. I am curious. How much would we need to raise? Would we need to match the grant? Is that?
Yeah. So the original the grant request was 88,000 and change. Our total match that's listed in the application is 59,000. The total project cost was estimated to be 147,000. Now bear in mind that that's 2017. So, I think one of our early conversations would need to be with, Michael Burns about, just getting some idea of what kind of numbers we're really talking about all of a sudden here, right? This is now, 5 years later. So I think that would be part, this is still very early and we could come back, we could learn that it's, that given the increase in lumber costs or whatever, that it really isn't feasible, or that we can't raise enough money. So I think, I honestly, I think it's probably a little bit of an uphill battle, but if Councilman Stegman is willing to sort of do some work, I think it's interesting question.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's worth talking about. I hope that as we pursue it, we don't, sometimes things get ahead of themselves, and just because you're pursuing something, it seems like you're definitely going to do it. As long as we do the review in the spirit of fact finding. I mean, I would love to see this happen, but we also have a facilities report that tells us the building itself needs tons and tons of work. So I get it. We don't want to let a grant go to waste, but a $59,000 match on a project that's probably going to be considerably more expensive, we're going to have a lot to think about. But I appreciate your willingness to dig in and see what we can find out.
I think until we actually, thank you, until we actually get an idea what it's going to cost, everything else is kind of like secondary at this point. So I think it's worth pursuing, just to get a hand, just we can make a wise decision at the correct time.
Yeah, I agree with that, that line of thinking. So much time, I mean, a considerable amount of time has passed, and in the last year alone, construction costs have, in some cases, tripled. So we could be in for some real sticker shock. Also, we don't know what additional types of funding might be available, which, is something that should also be looked into to see where we could really somehow make it happen.
Yeah, I think we have some resources in town and existing commissions that work with to get find out what's going on with that as far as additional grants go. And we'll see what the figure comes up with. Then if it's not something that we want to follow through because of whatever reason it is, then we have the option to say, well, we're not going to follow through on it, but at least we'll have the information, current information at our disposal about the financial impact that doing something like that would cause not only the taxpayers, but it's just what we'll get the whole picture. So.
All right, thank you. I think we're probably pretty good. I'm going to suggest to Councilman Stegman that you move slowly ahead. I'm happy to help out where I can, and know that this is a very preliminary discussion, and that you'll report back when you've got more information. Thank you. Next on the discussion list is the facilities report. I don't even really know that this needs to be a discussion at this moment. I just wanted to briefly acknowledge once again that it's out there, that the council is beginning to look it over. It's a very comprehensive report. I've talked to a couple of the council members already about it. And, over the next couple of months, I'd like to establish some framework for how we're going to begin planning, long-term planning, addressing, establishing priorities, addressing, paying for things, etc. So I'm very happy that the report is out, and I'm glad that everybody gets the chance to spend as much time as they want with it. I'm happy to have conversations about it, and I just wanted the members of the council to know that we will move forward. I'm soliciting advice from the council. If anybody has any ideas about what they think the best approach is to looking at our facilities in both the short term and the long term, I'm more than happy to. I'd be grateful to hear about it. So unless anybody has any specific comments they'd like to make about that, I'm just going to move on. Okay, thanks. The next item for discussion, the Lambertville Historical Society House Tour is interested in having the Holcomb House, Washington's headquarters, on the tour this fall. I've talked to representatives from the Historical Society several times on this, and I just wanted to get the council to weigh in to see if everybody is in agreement that this is a valuable property worth putting on the tour. So any thoughts from the council on this?
I would question how tour ready is what are they talking about, the interior or just the exterior?
The interior.
What?
The interior, yes.
Is it tour ready?
I'm not sure what you mean by that. I mean, certainly, we'll have to sweep it up and clean it.
Right.
I mean, there's no furniture in it. It's obviously not ADA accessible, but on Wednesdays when people come up to office hours, I often tour the house. It's very easy to move around. I think obviously people have to be mindful that it's an old house, and the front staircase can be, it's one of the Jersey winders. The back staircase is plenty wide. The house is in good, solid condition. I personally don't see any reason. I mean, it's not furnished, but in some ways, I think that increases its appeal because you really get to look at the woodwork and some of the finer features of the place. So, for me, it feels like it's tour ready.
Okay.
Mayor, could I suggest that it may not be necessary to open the entire house, depending on. I think it would be good to have a meeting with the Historical Society and go through it with them, and if they're willing to come up with a historical reference that will present the earlier use and function of that house, I think it would be worthwhile as an educational tool. And I have not been on a historical house tour other than the one I live in, which is not historic. But if people could walk away with more of an understanding of what happened on that site and what rooms are the rooms that the public would be interested in seeing, or which architectural features that the Historical Society would like to focus on, I think it would be a good educational experience as well. So.
I think that's a good point, Councilman. Certainly in my conversations with the Historical Society, when we talk about the Holcomb House, there has been interest expressed in creating exhibits, whether even if it's just kind of placards with pictures and historical information, stories, that kind of thing, in the house. I think that there would be an expectation that there would be exhibits in the house that that would add value to the tour. So if you'd like, if you want to, I'm happy to set up a meeting with the Historic Society for any council people who want to have a discussion about this with them, and then we can always kind of vote on it next month, or even in September. I think they are trying to put their planning in place, and they are trying to write their brochures and all of that. So I think that if we're able to make a decision on this sooner rather than later, it's beneficial to them just in terms of planning.
Mayor, is there a date
You know, I don't remember what it is. It's, I think October, it's mid-October. I can't recall the date.
I want to say it's the second Saturday in October, I believe.
I think you're right.
Well, you know, if you're looking for a volunteer from, seems like I have a lot of time lately, but if you're looking for another volunteer from the council to work with you with the historical site to see exactly, you know, how they visualize this happening, I'd be glad to get my historic sense in.
Okay.
Historic.
That's fine. I'm happy to do that. So what I would propose, Councilman, is that you and I meet with them sometime in early August so that we could potentially, you know, have this as a vote at our August 18th meeting. Are there any other questions or comments from the council on this?
And I'll just, if you know, if you think you have it handled and you have the relationship working with them, you don't have to include me. I want to make sure that there is input from a member of the governing body, and if it's you, I'm fine with it.
Yeah, I mean, I feel pretty good about what you know from my conversations, but you know, I don't think there's. I mean, if you want to meet with them before we vote on it as the governing body, happy to do that. I don't think it's going to make a big deal if we wait till the August meeting. Happy to do that. So, all right. So why don't we do that then?
Okay.
All right. Any other questions or comments on that matter? All right. Next, we have the DNR Canal Watch project. So this is something that that I spoke to some people who are on the DNR Canal Watch. It's a kind of a historical educational group, and they're interested in doing installing a model canal project on the Clausen property. I've already talked to a few council members about this. I think we're probably going to have to kind of not necessarily table this conversation. I think that it's an interesting project. You know, I'm not sure that the Clausen property is going to be the right place for this in the end. But I think it's a project worth considering, and maybe trying to designate another location. I don't know if anybody's had a chance to kind of look through this yet, what I sent out, but if you have any questions or want to share anything at this time, the floor is yours.
Well, if I might, I think when we originally got the communication from Canal Watch, they also include some photographs, and they may have even showed a video of what they're doing. And originally, before I got into what they were doing, I thought they were doing like a huge build or something that shows how the locks actually work when the canal is used for commercial purposes. But it's like a miniature model. It's
still like 120 by 60.
Yeah,
I mean,
130 by 60.
it's not like, you know, it's not full size. It's
I looked at it.
Yeah, it's 130. It's 130 by 60 feet. So that's a fairly. It's not
big.
very
It's
small.
pretty big.
Yeah, it's pretty big. So it's.
But correct me if I'm wrong, it wouldn't be a permanent display, correct? It would be for just.
Yeah, there's no indication of how long the display. I mean, I would think that they are interested in having it be a long-term display. I don't know about permanent.
Yeah, it doesn't say.
It seems like a pretty big undertaking for it to be temporary. I mean, 130 feet by what? 50 or whatever?
130 by 60, so it's 7,800 square feet, the whole, that's the fenced-in area.
Right.
It's bigger than my
Well,
house lot.
let's do a little bigger, you know, dive into it, find out how long they, I think it's a great idea. I think the idea is finding a location, and you know, maybe it's a different location. I don't have enough information really to say, oh, that's great for the Clausen property, depending on what kind of disturbance they make. Because most of the property is not flat. So.
Well, that's a pretty big footprint to use on a Clausen property, right? So, I mean, mean, I think so.
Although in the letter, they say that the canal channel would be 2 feet wide and 6 inches deep and will occupy an area about 130 feet by 60 feet. So I don't know how those numbers jive or what else they're doing on the property besides that, because the actual size of what they say is how big the canal is, what they're gonna make is not maybe long, but it's certainly, I don't know what their parameters are specifically, so. Mayor, it may be worth our time to invite someone from the Canal Watch up here and just make a presentation to us.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
Okay, I'll do that.
And let them bring whatever they have to bring to talk about their project.
Great.
That way us and the public would get a better feel about what they actually want to do.
All right, thank you. That's a good idea, Councilman. Thanks. All right, we're going to move on, please. Board appointments. So we have a couple of appointments here. Penny Cooper Brock has left the Parks and Recreation Commission. Barry Middleberg, to whom we appointed as an alternate position, I think it was last month. I would now seek to the council's consent to move him into the Penny Cooper Brock's term, which expires in 12/31/2023. And I guess we'll do these individually. Are there any questions about this appointment?
No.
Okay. If not, may I have a motion to appoint Barry Middleberg to replace Penny Cooper Brock?
So moved.
Second.
All right. Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Lambert?
Yes.
Sorry, Linda. Councilman Sanders?
Yes.
Councilman Stegman?
Yes.
Council President Taylor?
Yes.
Mayor Nolan?
Yes. Secondly, on the Zoning Board of Adjustment, I'd like to appoint William Neely to serve as a member of the Zoning Board of Adjustment with a term expiring 12/31/22, and Kevin Brady to serve as alternate number 2 with a term expiring 12/31/23. This is just a little bit of a shuffling from an appointment that I made, or the appointment that we couldn't. Appointment that I made last month. So I don't know if the council has any questions on it. If they do, speak up. All right. Hearing no questions, may I have a motion to appoint Kevin Neely to serve as member and Kevin Brady to serve as alternate number 2.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Lambert?
Yes.
Councilman Sanders?
Yes.
Councilman Stegman?
Yes.
Council President Taylor?
Yes.
Mayor Nolan?
Yep. Thank you. Correspondence. We have the New Jersey Transit Corporation request for federal financial assistance. Cindy, do you want to speak to that?
Yes, it's just notice from them that they're applying to the federal government for financial assistance. They have to public notice everybody. If anybody had any questions or comments, you can just ask me. I'll forward you the paperwork and you can log on and ask them.
Thank you. Second thing is the State of New Jersey Transportation Alternatives Set-Aside Program request for applications. Cindy, I'm sorry, can you speak to that as well, please?
Sure. Whenever the DOT puts out any type of grant, they notice everybody. So this is just a notice of a grant opportunity. This is for transportation alternatives, so it's not really for road, it's for road work, but not like what we normally would say.
Thank you.
So what's eligible? Like bicycle alternate plans or?
I'd have to really look more into detail. If anybody's interested in it, I'm happy to share. I think it's in your folder.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
Okay.
in the correspondence folder.
I didn't see any of these correspondences in that folder.
There were two, one correspondence
They weren't all together.
was the
You mean
DNR.
like as one document? I didn't check that. Let's check what this. I just looked at,
Use Canal
there's
Watch,
the Canal Watch and then there's a peculiar letter.
change the school board election.
right? Yeah.
That's all.
And
I'm
that's all.
sorry about that. I will scan them and upload them.
Thank you.
The state of New Jersey DOT response to the Route 179 inquiry for Hancock Street. So we talked about this last month, the crosswalk situation, and pursuant to our conversation last month, in which we decided it might be a good idea to see if we could extend the traffic calming all the way down to Bridge Street. I have sent the DOT commissioner a formal request to for the BTE, the Bureau of Traffic Engineers, to meet with city officials, perhaps Lieutenant Brown and myself, to discuss the feasibility, the feasibility of changing the traffic flow down to Bridge, which basically the request is basically to request a study to see whether taking that right-hand lane as you're coming south on 179 and making it a right turn only lane would be beneficial to motorists. I did note in my letter that in the last 2 years, 20 to 22, there were, oh gosh, I forgot how many accidents, 49 accidents or something like that, and 87 different summonses. I'll have to verify that number, but it was a pretty high number. So we are just requesting that the DOT take a look at this with us to see whether it's a good idea to just have one through lane traveling south through that intersection. Most of the accidents happen when cars in the right hand lane do not turn right on Bridge Street but go straight through onto 165, and that's confusing to the southbound drivers who are turning left on Bridge Street. So or even turning right on 165. So anyway, stay tuned for that. I would also note that I've had further correspondence with the DOT pursuant to a request for a crosswalk on 29 South in the area of Feeder Street. I have been working with the DOT on this for a little bit, for several months now, and it looks like the manager believes it's feasible to put a crosswalk by Feeder Street. As many of you may or may not know, there are 31 houses on the east side of Route 29 with no way to get into town by crossing Route 29. So I'm working on that as well, and the DOT has been pretty good for us. So I'm pleased about that. And then the last item of correspondence was Eastern Technical Service Center notice of the tipping fee increase for municipal solid waste at the county of Hunterdon Transfer Station. Pretty self-explanatory. Just a couple of announcements. The city is moving forward with selling 150 Swan Street. The sale by auction, sealed bids, is scheduled for Thursday, August 4th at 1 p.m. Interested bidders should contact the city clerk for the packet. We also sent information out on Lambertville Matters. It's been publicized in the newspaper and other places, right, Cindy?
Correct, and there's a very large sign on the property that has the actual advertisement. I think it's a 4x6.
It's
It
pretty
is a
big.
very big sign.
Yeah.
I saw it tonight.
Well, good. Next is just an announcement about the Swan Creek Waterway and the Quarry Street project. So the interlocal agreement with the Township of West Amwell. The bid opening was held on July 14th, and we received 0 responses. So these projects are all being put out to bid again. I wrote about this in Lambertville Matters the other week. The USDA, the bulk of the USDA work is being put out in a bid that we should be able to award or reject at our meeting on August 18th, as is all of the Ida Road work. That's all being put out to bid very soon. And then this project with the interlocal project with West Amwell is also being put out again for bidding. So I'm hoping that all of these projects are going to be on the agenda for the August 18th meeting, and that the City Council will be able to award contracts for all of that work. So stay tuned. Let's see.
Mayor, I have a quick question on one of the on the Swan Creek waterway.
Yep.
Is there any has there been discussion about what the feeling is, why there were no responses?
There hasn't been. There was a little bit of conversation with the city engineer. I have not spoken with the West Amwell engineer. Typically, these projects go out. There was some feeling that maybe the turnaround time was too tight. That with the bid wasn't out long enough. So, the engineers are now suggesting that we put these projects, these 3 bids out for a slightly longer period of time, another 5 to 7 days. And as sometimes happens, it's good for engineers or the city to really, it's perfectly fine to check in with contractors and let them know that we're putting things out to bid. Sometimes things just get overlooked. So that was what I heard from the engineer.
Okay, well, thank you.
And Mayor, we also checked with Hillary Trotman and tried to get a list of people that they've worked with previously, because this is a totally different type of work. It's not road work. It's kind of outside of what we normally would do.
Yes, thanks for that, Cindy. Yeah, the USD Hillary Trotman is our contact at the USDA, and she did provide us with a list of contractors that have done work for the USDA and NRCS previously, especially up in North Jersey. And I should just also note that the USDA did offer an extension to the city to complete this work till December 30th of this year. So,
Great.
yeah. So that's that. Convenience center hours are August 6th from 9 to noon, Wednesday, August 17th from 3 to 5, and Saturday, August 20th from 9 to noon. There will be an electronics recycling on Saturday, November 19th from 10 to 1 at the American Legion at 320 North Union Street. Electronics only, no microwaves. Need apply. Public participation. Is there anybody who's stuck with us this long who has something to say? I see somebody in Zoom land go right up, but we're going to go to people in the room first. So if you would step to the microphone, state your name and your address, and I will remind members of the public that you are given 3 minutes to speak, and the council may or may not respond. Let me just see if there's anything else that I'm missing here. No, I think that's it for now. So, there's someone in the room?
Yes, Sandy Hanna at 249 South Franklin, and I've handed a packet to Cindy with hard copies for people and some images. I realize that what I'm going to speak about is about a zoning board issue, but I do feel that awareness of the council is imperative with regard to the project being proposed at 240 South Main. There are a number of issues, one being that it's a land use variance change that, if this happens, actually opens the entire city for having developers be able to go into any place and propose something that they're proposing there, which is a 12-unit apartment with parking for 12 and a side parking for 4, which is under what is required. There is a steep slope there that is insane. I have pictures of the waterfalls that come down there. The third point is that previous construction ruined our wells and our foundations. Some people had to redo wells. We've had an assessment from Stover saying that any kind of vibration could actually drain our wells. So if you're willing to have us have all of our water drained, that's a possibility. The applicant is proposing that there's going to be 2 affordable units in it, but this is not on the overlay, so I don't know how I could say that. And I just feel like I put all those points in a written document. I did email them all to you earlier, but there's hard copies there and the photos. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sandy. I appreciate that, and I appreciate your email. I didn't write back today, but I will. I will just note, obviously, that stormwater and these matters are, I recognize them as serious issues in the city. I do need to just feel as though publicly I need to say this is a zoning board application that we're talking about here. This is not something that's in front of the governing body, and I don't interfere with I personally have I never have any conversations about any zoning board application. I would encourage you strongly to testify at the zoning board meeting next week. Bring your evidence and testify. I'm very sympathetic to you and to this and to these matters, but you know, it's a matter before the zoning board. So that's
Yes,
what
we understand that, and we formed the Lambertville Neighbors, and we have a group that is very much invested in this. We did testify at the last meeting, and we will continue to be, you know, to do this at the upcoming meeting.
Thank you. I appreciate you sending us the information, and I'll write to you tomorrow. Is there anyone else in the room?
No, there's other people, but nobody else to speak. And
Okay.
it looks like we have Judy Gleason. I don't know if her hand's up from before or if this is new.
This is new. So Judy, please again state your name and address and make your comment or question.
Judy Gleason, 86 North Union Street. I have a couple of things from what you guys have been talking about. The first is having to do with chickens. One of the places you definitely should be talking to is the State Department of Agriculture, because they are the experts in terms of flocks, including backyard flocks. And as you may or may not recall, we have a bird flu epidemic in parts of the country, and bird flu in backyard flocks can be one of the most dangerous places where it can happen. And the experts at the Department of Agriculture would be, I'm sure, willing to send somebody or talk with you about what you're talking about doing. Secondly, on that point, the state regulations on humane standards apply to chickens, including backyard flocks. And I'm guessing a lot of people in this town are not aware of the humane standards. So that's something else that the town should be aware of before they decide what the town may or may not do about backyard flocks. So that's my first thing. My second thing is the parking cost increase point, which was a big battleground several years ago with the town merchants because of the effect that they feel strongly it has on their business during the week. I don't know whether they've been subject to conversation or discussion about this, but it seems as though that's the kind of information that should be included in some sort of outreach for the local businesses, because they fought very hard to get the amount of increase that the last administration made and have it not be as great as the increase you guys are talking about tonight. Thirdly, I just wondered the 2% raise that was talked about in terms of salaries and pay for employees. I don't know if that involves non-union employees, but if it does involve non-union employees, having worked in state government and federal government, I know that one of the ways in which organizations, whether it's the state or the feds, try to control what they're spending when they have budgets that are kind of top heavy, that's one of the places that the percentage increase doesn't happen every year automatically. I'm just concerned if we're not paying that kind of attention to it. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. I would just talk about the raise. Well, first of all, thank you for the additional information about the Board of Agriculture and the humane standards. Parking costs, you know, this is an ordinance that's out in the public. We've had plenty of conversation with business leaders, and I'm happy to have more conversations. The 2% raise, I'm going to go on record as saying I wish it were higher. I think that a 2% raise every year is the absolute minimum, and I would love to see it be higher. We have a 9% inflation rate this year, and I will always stand on the side of our city employees, and I think that they work very hard, and 2% seems like you know, the absolute minimum. So that's what I have to say on that. But thank you for your thoughts. I understand about the budget. It's always a concern. We look at it, but for me, it's always about people first. So thank you.
If I may, Mayor?
No, you may not, Judy. You've had your time, so that's it. You're more than welcome to contact me if you have a question or concern otherwise. Thank you. Are there any other members of the public? Okay.
No, Mayor.
May I have a motion to close the public comment, please?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Lambert,
Yes.
Councilman Sanders,
Yes.
Councilman Stegman.
Yes.
Council President Taylor,
Yes.
Mayor Nolan.
Yes. this time I'd like to ask that the council go into closed session. So we will go into closed session at this point.
To discuss issues related to potential contracts pursuant to NJSA 10:4-12B7.
Point of clarity, are we expected to take action after this closed
No.
session? Okay, so it's to let the public know that they want to.
So moved?
Thank you.
Second.
Roll call, Mayor?
Yes, please.
All right. Councilwoman Lambert?
Yes.
Councilman Sanders?
Yes.
Councilman Stegman?
Yes.
Council President Taylor?
Yes.
Mayor Noah?
Yes. So thank you. At this time, I would ask the two remaining people in the Zoom to step out of the meeting, please.
Mayor, I just need a minute so I can shut down all the speakers.
Yeah.
All right.
Sorry.
There a second sign on to the mayor. Can the public still sign on?
Sorry?
Because we have to close, is there a different login for the mayor to log in?
No, we kicked everybody else out,
Okay.
so.
I need 1 minute. I'll be right back.
Sure, that's okay, Mayor. Everybody else went to the bathroom.
Are we continuing the recording?
No, stop the recording. That's a good call, Nancy, thanks.
So you don't need me here if I lock the door, do you?
No, that would be great, thank you.